Let's talk a bit about causation and experimentation. Does this cause that? Or does it cause those? Or maybe that caused this? Something that's common to all experiments is that we deliberately change something to discover what happens to something else later on, so folks can discover the effect of the cause. We say it all the time. She pulled out in front of me and caused me to rear-end her. Sorry, you caused this, so you fix it. No thanks. Due to the increased trend to be gluten intolerant, I can't have any of your delicious cake because it will cause me to have explosive diarrhea. But ask me again in 3 months because pop culture and magazine covers will then cause me to have a new trendy eating disorder, and I will forget all about my made-up gluten intolerance, and then I can have some cake. We also see reciprocal relationships more often than we'd like to. I can't stop scratching at this rash, and it's causing it to get worse. So when it comes to cause, there's something called an Inus condition. Seriously, is that how you say that? This guy Mackey explained it as an insufficient but non-redundant part of an unnecessary but sufficient condition. What the heck does that mean? The best I can tell is that a bunch of things can cause something to happen, but we typically don't know or even mention all of them. Now here's some info about effect. Let's pretend that there are 100 insulin-dependent people in the room, and we instructed them to eat a bunch of stuff. Then we gave them insulin and observed what happened. Then there's a term called counterfactual, meaning that we would know what would happen to those same people if we did not give them insulin in the same circumstance. We can't know that. We can't even try that. Ethics! Anyway, the effect would be the difference between the two outcomes. So I have some questions to ask. When you flip the switch in a dark room, what causes the light to come on?
There has to be a light switch available.
Look for it. Throw my hand out.
The electricity.
Electricity.
Okay. What else?
Your hand. I guess when you flip the switch.
Okay.
Power.
As far as my science knowledge extends, you've made the circuit whole, you've reconnected the circuit.
What would cause?
What would cause it not to happen? Yeah. What would cause it not to come on?
The power breaker's turned off. If it's a light bulb was burned out, if it's connected.
Something's wrong with the switch. Something's wrong with the light bulb. Light bulb went out.
To the room, the light switch not being there, and something faulty in the wiring, or the bulb is broken, or a whole myriad of.
In the 19th century, John Stuart Mill provided an analysis for causal relationships. He said a causal relationship exists when 1. The cause preceded the effect, 2. The cause was related to the effect, 3. We can find no plausible alternative explanation for the effect other than the cause. Oh, this sounds like 3 characteristics of experimentation. 1. We manipulate this alleged cause and observe an outcome afterward. 2. We look at the variation in the cause and see if it's related to the effect. 3. We use a bunch of methods to reduce the explanations for the effect. So, it would seem logical to use experimentation to find causation, right? Correlation does not prove causation. Where have I heard this before? When there's correlation, we can't even figure out what came first, chicken or egg. Let's not forget confound. This is the 3rd variable that may cause both. As if your mind is not blown, here are a couple more things to consider. Causal description and causal explanation. Let's go back to the people who eloquently described turning on lights in a dark room. Those answers were causal description. Even if we combined all of their answers, we still would not have the causal explanation in its entirety. The descriptive causation usually involves simple bivariate relationships between molar treatments and molar outcomes. Molar outcomes meaning a bunch of parts. For purposes of this presentation, we are skipping the section of the Shaddis, Cook, and Campbell book called Modern Description of Experiments Frankly, we get enough of that on Fridays. Not that I don't love it. Hey, remember what I said about the authors initially saying that since the standards for causation were so similar to the standards for experimentation, you should be able to use experimentation to find causation? That was awesome, right? What a refreshing perspective. You may have even said to yourself, my life and how I view it has changed forever. Well, guess what? A few pages later, it's discovered that this idea is about as refreshing as a wet blanket.